Hello all, welcome to my channel. I am Vivek Gaurav and I'll be teaching you dynamic programming. And before we proceed further, a humble request from my side. Please like and subscribe to my channel and also click on the bell icon so that you get notified every time a new video is coming up. Now, let's get started.
Today we are going to talk about Python loops, and the topics for today's discussion is that what is for loop, what is the syntax of a for loop, what is range function, and we'll be looking at some examples. So again, like I have done before, I'll be doing hands-on from time to time, and I'll request you to pause the video there and do the coding along with me. Okay, so in the last video we already talked about loops, and we discussed that loop is something which if you want to repeat, it is a block of code which gets repeated again and again without having to repeat the code, right? And we talked about two kind of loop in Python. We have for loop and the other we have is while loop. Okay, so in this video we will concentrate only on for loop. We will not go into while loop. In the next video we'll focus on the while loop. So now let's start for loop. So for loops in general are used for sequential traversal. Now what is the meaning of sequential traversal? So as the name suggests, sequential means in sequence, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They are in sequence, right? Or 1 or 2, 4, 6, 8. They also in sequence, right? So in case of sequential traversal, we use for loop, and it falls under the category of definite iteration. Definite iteration means you know how many times it is going to get repeated, whether it is 10 times, right? 10 times or 20 times. The number of iteration is fixed. I told you in the last video also, like for loop is used when you know the number of times the loop has to be repeated. So that is the reason it falls under the category of definite iteration. Definite iteration means the number of repetition is specified explicitly in advance. It is already given to you, like I want to go from 1 to 100, or I want to go from 2 to 50, like that. You already know in advance. And the for loop in Python is used to iterate the statement or a part of the program several times, and it is frequently used to traverse data structure like list, tuple, or dictionary. So we already know what is list, what is tuple, what is dictionary. So if you want to go through the item of each item of the list, or each item of the tuple, or each item of the dictionary, then in that case also we can use for loop. Okay, so now what is the syntax? So the syntax of for loop is for var in iterable. Now this for is a keyword, this var is a variable, in is again a keyword, and this iterable, it can be different thing. Okay, so for this is a keyword, where it can be like I, or in will be again as it is keyword, and iterable, it can be the name of a list, or it can be a range function, it can be anything. Here you see, here the iterable is a collection of object like list or tuple. Okay, and the indented statement inside the for loop are executed once for each item in the iterable. You can see the indentation given over here. There is an indentation, there is a colon, so of course there will be an indentation. This represents the block of code. So this part, all the blocks, all the lines of code which follow the same indentation are going to be a part of the for loop, and they are going to get repeated as many times as the condition is satisfied or the number of iteration is given. Okay, so the variable var takes the value of next item of the iterable each time through the loop, every time. So let's suppose you have a list like this, list I, list you have 1 2 3, and then you have a. Okay, so what happens is that I will take the first, for the first time I will represent 1, the next time I will represent 2, the third time I will represent 3, the next time I will represent a. So this is how it varies. The variable var takes the value of the next item of the iterable each time through the loop. Every time the loop is moving ahead, it is moving from the first one to the second one, second one to the third one, third one to the fourth one, like that. Okay, so this is the syntax for I in iterable. It can be a variable, it can be a range function also. We will understand each one of them. Okay, so let us understand the flow chart of it. So here you can see that for each item in sequence, okay, for each item in sequence, we are checking whether it is the last item is reached or not. If the last item is not reached, then what we do is that we follow a certain statement. If this statement is false, if it is not reached, then it does a certain statement. It goes back again, checks again if the last item has reached or not, and the moment the last item has reached, it comes out of the loop. You can see that it is coming out of this path, and it is written exit for loop. Okay, so let us make a list like name equal to, and make it like 1 2 and then Vivek, like that. So for the first time it will go to, like if I'm writing like for I in name, okay, if I'm writing like that for I in name, so what it will do is that for the first time I'll be representing 1. Is this the last item? No. So let's suppose I'm printing here print I. So what it will do is that it will print I. Now what is I representing? I is representing 1, so 1 got printed here. Then it went again and it checked, is that the last item? No, it was not the last item. So it went again to 2 and now it is 2. So 2, is the last item reached? No, it is not the last item. Also there is one more item after that. Okay, so what it will do is that it will print the statement. So now it will print 2. Then again it went and now it is pointing to third item. Okay, is this the last item? Yes, it is the last item, but it is not over. It has to repeat that. So what it will do is that it will come down over here. Okay, it will print I, which means it is Vivek, and then what it will do is that it will go again, and now it is last item reached. Yes, this was the last item. There is nothing after that. Now what it will do is that it will come out and you can see that we have got our list. In case you did not understand it completely, do not worry about, I will debug the code and that time you can see it completely. Okay, so now using for loop using sequence, okay, in a sequence, so iterating string using for loop. So let's suppose you have this str equal to Python and then you write for I and str. So what we'll do is that it will represent each of the character here, right? It will represent P, then it will represent Y, then T, then H, then O, and then on N. Okay, so what I will do is that without wasting any time, let me take you to the editor and write there. So I'm writing a string, okay, or I'm writing str1 equal to, I'm giving Python. Okay, I'm writing like this, Python, and here what I'm doing is that for I in str1, okay, and then I'll put colon, and then you see indentation is coming over there by default, and I'm printing I. Let me first run the code and show you the output. Okay, so you can see python is coming. Okay, now let me debug the code here and then show you how it actually works. Okay, so let me debug the code. So for the first time, str is what? Str is Python. This is what. Now what I will do is that I'll add over here, I'll add the value of I. Okay, so now I is not defined, but now the moment it will go inside, now you see I is representing to P. Okay, it went again, and this time you will see next time it is coming, I is representing Y. Next time it is going, it is representing T, and as soon as it is printing, we can see here PYT got printed. Okay, this time T is representing what? For the fourth time, T is representing H. The next time I is representing what? I is representing O. The next time what is I representing? I is representing N. And after that what happened? It went again back, checked the condition. Is this the last item? Yes, this is the last item. The loop got over and you can see I not available and we got Python. Okay, so this is how it works. The only thing that you should take care of here is that this important thing which I wanted to tell you, that then this string I is starting. So P Y T T H O N. So first time the value of I is this one P. Next time it is pointing to this one. Next time it is pointing to this one. So this I is called as the loop variable. This I is called as loop variable, which is traversing through the list. From the first item it went to the next item, to the third item, to the fourth, to the fifth, to the sixth. Okay, so like that it works when we talk about a normal string. Okay, so I'm clear. Even if I change it to, like, my name, it is going to work exactly the same thing, right? It is going to work exactly the same way. You can see VIVEK is getting printed. Can you see that? Okay, so if you want to go through the string, okay, one letter at a time, you need to use for loop, and now you know how to use the for loop. Okay, so now let's go to the next thing. So now program to print the table of a given number, and here you see in the list what we have done is that we have taken all the 10 numbers 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10, and then what we are doing is that we want to print the table of 5. Okay, so we made n equal to 5. If you want to print the table of 7, you make it 7. And then would you see what I'm doing for I in list? Now list is having how many items? 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 10 items, starting from 1 and ending at 10. What we are doing is that we have taken another variable, c is equal to n multiplied by I. What is n? 5. So for the first time 5 will be multiplied with 1 because the loop variable I will be pointing to 1. We are printing c, so 5 got printed. Next time the value of I became 2, so 5 into 2 will get printed. 5 into 2 will, c will become 5 into 2, which is 10, right? And what will get printed? 10 will get printed, and like that it will go through all the items in the list and will get a table. Okay, so let me take you to the editor and write the code for you. And this list1 equal to, here I gave 1 comma 2 comma 3 comma 4 5 6 7 8 9 and then 10. Okay, so now we have the list, and here I'll write for I in list1. okay, and put colon, and I'll write C equal to, and I need to take one more number. So let us have a number from the user. So num equal to int. You know why we use int? Because we are typecasting, right? Enter the number. We are asking the user to enter the number, and then what I will do is that C equal to num multiplied by I, and I'll print here print I, print C. Okay, so when I'll print C, what happens here is that you see I'll asking me a number 5, so I entered a number. Okay, and I entered a number, and you can see that the table got printed over here. Can you see the table 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, right? If I'll change the number, if I'll give another number, what will happen is that it will print another table. Let's suppose I give 9, it is printing the table of 9. So let us try to understand how it is working. Okay, let us again debug this program also and see. So now here you see, for asking me the number, so let's suppose I entered 3. Okay, so now what is happening is that list, you can see all the items in the list. Num is 3. The I is not having any value so far. First time the value of I became 1. So 3 into 1, let me add a value over here called C also. Okay, now you see what is happening. The value of C is 3. Next time what will happen, the value of I will change to 2. You can see the value of I has changed to 2 because that is the next item in the list. Okay, it is going to the next item. Then it is calculating num into I. So 3 into 2 became 6. It printed 6. Then the third time it will go to the list. Now I will point to 3 because 3 is the next item in the list, and it will go on like that in each and every item in the list. Okay, to each and every item in the list it will go like 7, 8, 9, right? Now it is pointing to 8. Next item will be 9. It is pointing to next item which is 9, and then it is pointing to the next item which is 10. And the moment it got 10, you see it will go back again. After that there is no more item, so the loop will get over there itself. Okay, and we'll get the final result. So this is how we can go through the list. This is also very simple, not a very complicated one. Okay, so we got the output as required. Okay, so now you know how to travel through the strings, through the character in a string, right? And then you know how to go through an items in a list, right? You know how to go through an item in a list. Okay, this can be done. You just need to remember that you will write like this for I in, and then here you will write the string variable name, string name, or you will write the list name, and it will do the task for you. This I will be pointing to each and every item in the string or each and every item in the list. Okay, so did we miss the third program? No. Okay, this is the fourth program. Okay, so program to print the sum of the given list. So here in the list we have some items given like 10, 30, 23, 43, 65, 12. These are the value items in the list. We have taken a variable called sum, and now I will be pointing to each item 10 and then 30 and then 23. So what we need to do is that we need to add 10 plus 30, then whatever sum comes we'll have to have 23 in that. So for that reason what we are doing is that we are writing sum equal to sum plus I. Okay, and after the loop is getting over, see here we are printing the sum is sum, whatever the value comes over here will get the output. Okay, so now let me take you to the editor and write this code also, and you can also practice this with me. So here only I will change few things, or let me write it again fresh. Okay, list 1 equal to, here I'll write 10 comma 23 comma 45 comma 5667 or 556 commas 89. Okay, anything which you can think of. Let us have another variable called sum, and now here for I in list 1. Okay, and then put colon, and then here you write sum equal to sum plus I. Okay, and after the for loop is done, here I'll be printing print the sum is, what is the sum? The sum is sum itself, because that is the variable that we have, right? Now let me run this code and check if I'm getting the correct output. So I'm getting 223. Okay, let me debug it and see how it is working. Here also we will debug it and see how it is working. Okay, so I put the debugger in the wrong place actually, so I'll have to I'll have to close it and then debug it one more time. So now you see for the first time the value of I is what? For the first time the value of I is 10. Why I 10? Because that is the first item in the list. So I is representing to 10. So when we'll add sum is equal to sum plus I, 0 plus 10 is 10 only. This time I will be pointing to 23. Now you see I is pointing to 23. So now 10 was previous value of sum, 23 will get added to it, so it will become 33. You see it became 33 now. Now I will represent 45. So now you see I is representing 45. It is the third item. If 45 will get added, you will get 78. Then I will represent what? I will represent 56. As you can see here, now it is representing 56. If you'll add I 78 to it, you will get the answer as 134. This is the sum. Now I will point to the last item, which is 89. And now if you'll add that 89, the sum becomes 223. and it went back again. Now you do not have any items, so where it will go, it will come to line number 5. You see it is coming to line number 5 and it will print the sum. Okay, so the sum is 223. So this is how it is going to each and every item in the list. I is representing each and every item in the list. Okay, now the next thing that we have over here is that range function. Now this is something which is important. So the range function is used to generate the sequence of the number. Okay, sequence of the number. Like if I want to generate numbers from 1 to 100, then what I have to do is that I have to use a range function. Okay, so if you pass the range 10, it will generate the numbers 0 to 9. It will generate the number 0 to 9. So range function, it is an inbuilt function which is used to generate the sequence of number. If we write in a range bracket 10, it will generate the number from 0 to 9. The syntax of the range function is given below. So here you see you have three things that you need to pass in a range function. Okay, you need to pass the start thing, you need to pass the stop, and you need to pass the step size. What is start? Start means where you want to start from. You want to start from 1, you want to start from 0, you want to start from 10, you want to start from 20. What is the number you want to start from? Next is that, so here the start represents the beginning of the iteration. Next is that stop. Stop means where you want to stop. Okay, you want to stop at 10, you want to stop at 20, you want to stop at 30, you want to stop at 40. So the next point is that stop. Now the important thing to note over here is that if you write 10, that you want to stop at 10, so 10 won't be included. It will not include 10. It will just stop at 10. It will not go ahead from there. It means 10 is not included. So the stop represent the loop. It will iterate till stop minus 1. It will iterate till stop minus 1. It will not go till 10. It will not go till 10 if you have mentioned 10. Like you see, if you write range 1 comma 5, it will generate the random number from 1 to 4. 1 2 3 4, and it means 5 it is stopped. It did not include that. If you want to include 5, what you have to do is that you have to go till 6. Okay, so always remember that if you write anything over here, it will actually execute that one less than the stop, one less than the stop. Okay, and this is optional. You do not have to every time you do have to write it also. It is optional. And the last thing is that the step size. The step size means you are starting from 1. Let's suppose you are ending at 100. Okay, now how you want to go from 1 to 100? How much steps you want to take? You want to take one step at a time, like 1 2 3, or you want to take two step at a time, like 1 3 5, or you want to take three step at a time, like 1 4 7. So that specifies the step size. The step size is used to skip the specific number from the iteration, and it is optional to use. By default the step size is 1. So if you do not give anything, it means what? It will increase by 1. Okay, how do you do that? You see here, program to print the number in sequence. So when you write for I in range 10, what it does is that it prints the number 0 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9. It is not including 10. Okay, and I is going from all the values from here, like 0 to 9, 0 1 2. Now here you did not specify where you want to start from. You did not specify that part. You specified where it is ending, right? And it included all the number just before this, like 10 minus 1. We can see that. So till 9 it included all the number. So let me go over here and write the code for you. So here, let's suppose if I write for I in range 10, what it will do is that, and if I write print here, I, you see what it is going to do. Okay, it is also going to print 0 and then 9, right? If I write here 5 so that you can see the code, right? If I write here 5 so that you can see the output in a single window, you see 0 1 2 3 4. 5 is not included. If I want to include 5, what I have to do is that I have to write 6 over there, and then if I run it, now you see I am getting 0 to 5. How it is working? Let us see that out, debug it and check how it is working. So here also it will do the same thing. For the first time the value of I is 0, so it is starting from 0. Then it will become 1, then it will become 2, right? Then it will become 3, then it will become 4. You see it is changing here, 4, then it will become 5. Okay, and now after 5 you see it will not work anymore. It is stopped. It went there and now it will stop, right? Because the moment it became 6, it did not come into the loop. It is stopped at that condition. So this is how the range function works. Okay, so I hope that you got a better clarity about the range function, how it is working. Let us have another one, program to print the table. So the last table that we printed using the list, right? But now let's suppose we do not want to do it that way. So what we are doing is that we are asking the user to enter a number whose table he wants to print, and then I am running a range. I am running a loop in the range 1 comma 11 because I want to get 10 also. So 1 comma 11, so 1 2 3 and like that. and then what I'm doing is that print c is equal to n multiplied by I, and then I'm printing n comma asterisk mark comma I comma equal to sign and then c. Okay, so let me take you to the editor and write the code for you so that you can understand. So here I will have n equal to int, and then I'll write input, and then I'll write enter the number. Okay, so now we have the number, and then what I will do is that for I in range, okay, 1 comma 11, okay, and then here I will write, here I'll directly print n comma question asterisk mark comma I comma equal to sign and then comma n multiplied by I. Okay, n multiplied by I, and if I run the code, okay, it will ask me the number, so I'm entering 4. Now you see I'm getting the table, right? I'm getting the table. 4 into 1 is 4, 4 into 2 is 8, 3 12, 4 16, 20, 24, 30, 28, 32, 36, 40. Okay, so this is how you need to use the range function. Always remember, the thing is that whatever number you write here, that will not be included. So if you want to include 11, then you have to write 1 comma 12, and you see we are not mentioning the third parameter. The third parameter is completely optional, right? You saw that in range we saw three things, right? We saw start, right, and then we saw end, and then we saw step size. But here if you will see, we are just mentioning the two parameter. In the last program we just mentioned one parameter. Here we are just mentioning the first two parameter, the start, which is 1. I'm starting from 1, and ending where? Ending at 11. So what it is doing is that it is printing all the number, like it is going from 1 till 10. Okay, so the third parameter we are not giving, and you can see that the step size is 1. It is automatically incrementing by 1 by default, because that is the by default part. Okay, that is the by default part. So now let's go back to the slide and go ahead from here. Okay, so now if you want to print the even number using step size, then what you should do? You should use the third parameter also. Now you see I'm giving the third parameter. Now in the range function you can see I'm passing three things, 2 comma n comma 2, and what it is doing is that it will print all the even numbers in the range what the user is giving. Okay, so let me do that here. Let me take you to the editor and write the program. So enter the number, and here I will write 1 comma n plus 1. Okay, if I have to include that, and here what I will do is that here I will print I only, but the important thing is that I will increase the step size to 2. I'll increase the step size to 2. Okay, and if I run the code now, if I'll enter a number, let's suppose 20, so now you see, okay, I have to start from 2. I do not have to start from 1, otherwise it will give me 139. Okay, so if I enter a number here, like let's suppose 8, so you see 2 4 6 8, all the number it is giving, right? So it is automatically, so first it gave 2, then after that it should be 3, like 2 3, what are the numbers which are here? 2 3 4 5 6 7 and 8 are there if I have entered 8, right? Okay, 9 is there, so 9 won't be included, 2 will be included. So after 2 it is printing 2, then it increased, jumped by 2, so now the next number it is printing 4, then the next number it is printing 6, then the next number it is printing 8, like that it is working. Let me debug this part and show it to you so that you understand it in a better way. Okay, so let me debug this part. It will ask me a number, let's suppose I entered 8, and now you see, so for the first time the value of I is 2, right? Next time I will not become 3, right? I will automatically become 4. Why? Because the step size is increasing the value of I by 2 every time. So from 2 it become 4, from 4 it will become 6, from 6 it will become 8, and after that from 8 it will not go, because at 9 I am ending the loop anyway, right? So it is stopping the loop there itself. Okay, so this is how the step size works, and range function is very much important. Reason being is that anytime you know a number, like you know a definite iteration like 1 to 100, you are going to use range function only. Okay, and the third parameter is optional, but that is very much essential in cases when you have to jump by a specific step size. Okay, so that was all about step size. Now we can also use the range function with sequence of number. Okay, the len function is combined with the range function, and which iterate through a sequence using indexing. Now look at this here, look at this example. We have a list, okay, and we have few items in the list like Peter, Joseph, Ricky and Devansh. Okay, now what I'm doing here is that I'm using a function called len. Now what is len? So len function is actually used to find the length. Okay, find the length, how many items are there. So in this, how many items are there? There are 4 items in this list. There are 4 items in this list, right? So now what we are doing is that for I in range len of list, it means what? Range of 4. So it will go from 0 1 2 3, it will go till these items. So this is 0 index, this is 1, this is 2, this is 3. Then what I'm doing is that print hello, which is an inverted comma, comma list of I. So I is pointing to the first index, which is 0. So it will give you hello Peter, then it will give you hello Joseph, then it will give you hello Ricky, then it will give you hello Devansh. Okay, let me take you to the editor and write the code for you. So here what I will do is that here I will create list1 equal to, and here I will write, like, let's suppose C sharp. Okay, I'll write few programming languages name, and here I will write Java, and here I will write it Python. Okay, and I'll write C, and I'll write one more C++. Okay, these are the programming languages that we have created, and instead of comma I give a full stop. That's the reason it is showing me error. Now what I will do is that for I in range, okay, and I'll use len function. Okay, len function. Before that, let me show you how to use len function. Okay, so let me write print len of list1. So let me show you what is the output that we are getting when we are using len. Can you see 5? So we have 1 2 3 4 5 items, so that is the reason it is giving me 5. Okay, now what I will do is that for I in range, and I'll comment this line because now we do not need this line, so I'll just comment it. For I in range, what? Len of list1. Okay, len of list1, length of that. And here I will write print, and hello I'll write hello, and then I'll give comma, and here I will write list of I. Okay, index. Now you see, if I run the code, can you see list I, and it is giving me list 0 1 2 3 4. It is not giving me the item name. Why it is not giving me the item name? Because I have not mentioned the correct variable name. My variable name is list1, right? I have mentioned list. Now you see, hello C sharp, hello Java, hello Python, hello C, and hello C++. Right now, if I debug the code for you once again, now you see what is happening when I'm running the code. Let's see what C is pointing, what I is pointing to. For the first time, the value of I is 0, right? And you can see list having C sharp, Java, Python in it. Okay, so let me remove this expression and add one more expression over here, which is list one of I. Okay, and now you see list1 0, it is pointing to C sharp. Okay, then the next time I became 1, it became Java, it is pointing to the next one. Then when I increase it to 2, it is pointing to Python, which is the third item. Then I went in again ahead, now it is pointing to C. Okay, the index is 3 but the item is 4. Then again, now the index became 4 and it is pointing to the fifth item, which is C++, and then it will go again. Now it will not find anything and it stop over there. Okay, so this is how it is going through each and every item of the list, and we ran this using the len function. Okay, now let's go ahead. Nested for loop in Python. Nested, we have already discussed. The moment the word nested comes, it means something is within something. So Python allows us to nest any number of for loops inside a for loop. You can nest any number of for loop inside a for loop, and the inner loop is executed n times for every iteration of the outer loop. Okay, so let's suppose I have one, like, for the outer loop I have for I in range 1 comma 5. Okay, and then inside I have for j in range 1 comma 3. So for one value of I, it will go for one value of I equal to 1, j will become 1, and then it will become 2, and then it will become 3, like that. So for each time, so total it will run 5 into 3 times, which is 15 times. This is how many times the loop will actually run. Okay, so the syntax is given below. Look at the syntax. For iterating where in sequence, okay, outer loop. Then for iterating where 2 in sequence, which is the inner loop, the block of statement for the inner loop and the block of statement for the outer loop. This is how you do it. Okay, let us have a look at the example here. So here, nested for loop, use the number of rows. So what we are doing here is that we are printing pattern. Okay, this is the pattern that we are printing. Okay, star 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 star. So in these are kind of things we need a nested loop. Why? Because we need two loops. One loop that we need is for the number of rows. So how many rows do we have? We have 5. So the first loop, which is the outer loop will be for the number of rows. Outer loop will be for number of rows. And for inner loop, what we have is that in the inner loop, what we need to do is that the inner loop is for the number of items in a number of columns, we can say, right? Number of columns. So we have 1 column, 2 column, 3 column, 4 column, 5 column. Okay, so let us have a look at the program. First, we are asking the rows from the user, enter the number of rows. Then we are running a loop for I in range 0 comma rows plus 1, because if he has given 5, so I have to go till 5. Okay, that is the reason I am running rows plus 1. Then inner loop I am running for j in range I. Okay, for j in range I, it means what? I am running whatever the value of I is. For the first time it will be 0, so I am running 0 to 0, then it is running 0 to 1, then it is running 0 to 2, like that. And now you see here print asterisk, and then I'm putting end equal to single quote. Now what is this end? Now we know that if I directly use print, it will always print in a new line, but we do not want that. That is the reason what we do is that after comma, we write the separator. Okay, this is called separator, and there we write end equal to. We do not want to end it with a new line. I want to end it with a space so that I can have multiple things in the same line. Okay, and after the inner for loop, we are changing the line by using a blank print statement. Okay, so let me take you to the editor and write the code for you, write the code for this. So what I will do is that I'll ask, okay, rows equal to int and then input and then enter the number of rows. Okay, rows, I'm asking the user to enter the number of rows, and now here I'll write outer for loop for I in range, okay, 1 comma rows plus 1. Okay, so I'm starting from 1 and going till rows plus 1. Okay, now here what I will do is that here I will write another for loop for j in range. Okay, now here if you want you can write 0 comma I, or you can directly write I also. Here if you want you can write 0 comma I also, or you can directly write I. That is not going to make much of a difference. And then here what I will do is that I'll print what? I'll print asterisk. Okay, and after that I'll give comma. Now you can see here it is showing you separator. So what the separator is, end equal to, and I'll give a space over here. Okay, and this is done with the for loop. I'll come out of the inner for loop, and here I'll write a print statement. Okay, and now let me run the code and show you. If I write 5, can you see I'm getting a pattern like this, right? Can you see this? Star 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 and then star 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 star. Okay, let me show you how the program is running, though it will run for a longer time. So what I will do is that I'll just give you 3 here. I'll just give 3 so that it runs. Now you see, so for the first time the value of I is 0, 1, okay, and j is 0. Okay, look at that. Next time the j value got over, it went to the next line, it changed the line, and then it is going ahead. This time the value of I will become 2. Now you see we are again starting j from 0. So this time you see j is 0, I is 2. You see here what is happening. J will become 1 now. Can you see j becoming 1 now? So 0 and 1, it will become 1, and then again this time the j should become 2, but at 2 it will, it will come out of the loop. So it went to line number 5, it went again, this time I became 3, this time I became 3, and now you see the value of j. The value of j is 0, the value of j will change to 1, the value of j will again change to 2, and the moment it went again, the value of j should become 3, but at 3 the loop anyway will break, so it will come out here. Okay, and now we got our pattern what we were supposed to get. Okay, so this is how it is working. Okay, I hope now you can make pattern also if you want to. So now let us go back to the slide. Okay, now program to number pyramid. Instead of a star you are printing 1 2 2 3 3 3 4 4 4 4 5 5 5 5. Now this is very simple. We know that in the first loop I is constant, which is 1. Then in the second loop I is again constant and it will have 2. So what we have to do is that instead of a star you print I, and you will get that. Okay, let me go to the same program, and let me just write, instead of a star, let me just write I over there. I will not do any other thing. And if I'll run this code now, okay, you see what I'm getting. If I'm writing 5, you see 1 2 2 3 3 3 4 4 4 4 5 5 5 5. So it basically shows you that for each loop, for each time when y was 1, j was running 1 time. When I was 2, j was actually running 2 time. When I was 3, j was actually running 3 time. When I was 4, j was actually running 4 time. And when I was 5, j was actually running 5 times. This is what it is showing it to you. Okay, so it is very simple. I just changed one line, instead of asterisk I made it a star. Okay, now the question is that what happens if you do not give this separator? If you do not give this separator, you see the whole program will be a different one. It will, you will not get the output. You'll get output like this, which does not make a pattern, right? We wanted 2 2 to come in the same line, right? That is the reason what we need to do is that we need to give this separator. Okay, if I'll give this separator now, if I enter here 5, now you see I'm getting the correct output, because now this print statement is not changing the line which it was doing earlier. Okay, so this is what about the nested for loop in Python. Okay, this is what about the nested for loop in Python is. Now we will go ahead Okay, and we'll be understanding about an important concept which is nowhere in any other programming language, which is using else with for loop. Okay, using else statement with for loop. So unlike other languages like C, C++, Java, Python allows us to use the else statement with the for loop, which can be executed only when all the iterations are exhausted. Now this is an important line to understand. All the iterations are exhausted. It means what? The loop condition has become false. The loop condition has become false. Okay, loop condition has become false. It means what? If I'm talking about a list, so all the items has been over. If I'm talking about a range, it has reached the maximum possible limit, right? Minimum comma maximum, or the start end, it has reached the end. So here we must notice that if the loop contains any of the break statement, then the else statement will not be executed. Okay, now what is break? So we will talk about this in the next video, because that is all about loop control statement, but basically I'll just give you a hint about it. So break is actually used to take you out of the loop. If you want the loop to not execute any further, you want to stop the normal flow of the loop, you can use a break statement. It will stop the loop there itself. Okay, so if it has not executed a break statement, then only the else part will get executed. Let us have a look at the example. So here for I in range 0 comma 5, we are printing I, and then in the else part we are printing for loop completely exhausted, since there is no break. Okay, so let me show you how it actually works, how the program flows. Okay, so here what I will do is that for I in range 1 comma 5, okay, and here I will write print I, and here what I will do is that here I will write else. Okay, here I will write else, and here I will write print. Okay, here I will write print for loop completely exhausted. Okay, HAUSTED. Okay, and here after the for loop, after here I will write one more print statement. This is after the for and else part. Okay, this is after the for and the else part. Okay, I'll write like this, and here I will write inside the else part. Okay, inside the else part, and here I will write one more thing, write print inside the for loop. Okay, inside the for loop. So now you see inside the for loop will come 5 times, that we know, right? Inside the for loop will come 5 times. Can you see here? Let me decrease the range and let me make it 3 so that you can see it. Okay, now you see in 1, for the first time the value of I was 1 inside the for loop, 2 inside the for loop, then it went into the else part. Inside the else part, for loop completely exhausted, and then anyway it came. This is after the for and else part. Let me debug the code and show it to you how the program actually flows. Okay, so now here what happens is that for the first time it came here, then it went to the next line, it went back to the for loop, check the condition again, it is still true, it went again, check the condition again, this time the loop is exhausted, it is coming to the else part, it executed the else part, and then it went to the next line, which is outside the for and the else block. Okay, so this else part got executed when it was a normal execution, when it did not encounter a break. The loop exhausted means the condition became false, right? This was the situation. Now let us go back and understand what will happen if we use a break statement. So now you see here for I in range 0 comma 5, and then we are printing I, and then we are writing break. Okay, and after that we are writing else print for loop is exhausted, and then I'm writing the loop is broken due to break statement came out of the loop. Let me go over there and write this code first, and then I'll come back there and execute. Okay, here I will write print next is break. Okay, and here what I will do is that here I'll write break. Okay, and here I will add one thing, if break encountered, COUNTER, it won't come here, it won't come here. Okay, it won't come here. Okay, and then I'm writing this. Now let me run this code again, and now you see only one inside the for loop, next is break, it did not go into the else part, and here you see this is after the else part. If you did not understand this, let me write it like this. Okay, let me write like this. Okay, and here what I will do is that here I will change these things. I have written so many things, now I will change all these things. Here what I will do is that here I will write print the normal path. Okay, the value of I is, okay, and here I will print I, and here I will add a condition, if I equal to 3, the value the moment I equal to 3, then what will I do is that I will write print now break will come. Okay, and then here I will write break. Okay, and here I'll remove this break part. We do not need that. In the else part I will write print, this is the else part. Okay, this is the else part I wrote. Part spelling is wrong, so I'll correct that. And this is after the for and the else part. Okay, now let me run this code and show it to you what happens. Can you see the value of I is 1, the value of I is 2, the value of I is 3 it is giving, and now it is saying now break will come, and after that we are getting this is after the for and else part. It means what? It never went into this part. Okay, let me show it to you with the code, with the debug. Okay, so here let me debug it, and now you see for the first time the value of I is 1, it went ahead. The condition is false, it went ahead. The value of I will become 2 now, it printed this part 2, right? The condition I equal to 3 is false, it went ahead. Now this condition will become true, and now you see it will go to line number 4, and now you see it will go to break, and after this it will not go to line number 6, and it will directly go to line number 8, right? But earlier we saw when the loop was executing. Now if I remove this part, now, okay, if I remove this part, then you see what happens. Then it will be, it will be normal path. You see now, okay, condition false, condition true, it will come here, and then again it will go condition again. So now it is coming to else part. Can you see that it is coming to line number 7 now, right? It is going to line number 8. But the moment I remove this part and I run this again, now you see one more time, you have a look and closely, you see now condition false, nothing will happen. Go back to the loop, this time the condition is true, it will come here. Now it is coming break, and now you see it will not go to line number 7, it will directly jump to line number 8. So it means else part will never get executed as if the loop has a normal abnormal ending. If the loop has an abnormal ending, then the else part will not get executed. Okay, this is what is there in the else statement with for loop. Okay, so in the above statement the loop is broken due to the break statement, and therefore the else will not be executed. The statement present immediate next to the else block will be executed. So this line which we were saying here, okay, this line which we are saying here, now it becomes an important to understand, right? Which can be executed only when the iterations are exhausted. If the iterations are not exhausted, if it had an abrupt ending, then the else part will not get executed. Okay, so now that's all in this video about for loop. We talked about a lot of things. We talked about string, we talked about list, we talked about iteration, range function, and we talked about else also. We talked about steps also in else function, in range function. Okay, now you practice it. If you have any question, reach out to us. Thank you so much.